Good evening, everyone. Much to the delight of everyone, we'll go ahead and call to order the Sacramento Regional Transit Board meeting for Monday, August 14th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Budge. Here. Director Hanson. Director Harris.
Here.
Director Hume.
Here.
Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kennedy.
Here.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Natoli. Director Chenier.
Here.
Director Cerna is marked as being absent, and Chair Moran.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on August 16th at 6 p.m. and replayed on August 17th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, start us off there, Cindy.
Public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
And I do have a request to pull item 8 off of consent. So motion for 1 through 7. Oh, yeah, we better do that first. I'm sorry, everybody. I tried to sneak away from that, didn't I? All right, so business from the floor, opportunities to address the board on matters not on this evening's agenda. And we'll start it off with Coco Cocazella. Is Coco here? Good evening, Coco.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks. Coco Cocazella. I'm a member of several citizen advocacy groups around transportation in the Sacramento Valley. Sacramento Transit Riders Union, Sacramento Transit Advocates and Riders, and also Sacramento Transportation Choices, which is a kind of a new group. Tonight I'm speaking as an individual. Sometimes when I come up here, I voice some concerns, aka complaints. I realize I do that. The time is short, but tonight I'd also like to thank the staff for the hard work. It is appreciated. I know there's a lot going on. Henry, James, Brent, Laura, Mark, others. Yeah, it's a hard gig. There's a huge amount of challenges, and board, I urge you to please hear where the needs stand. I think we're dangerously immersed in a culture of developer pandering. We have a lot of citizen needs around transportation in Sacramento Valley, some that disappeared in 2008. We need them back. We need basic services, more bus routes, more frequent service. So, there's stuff. We continue to talk about making Sacramento a destination city. Once again, I say you don't become a destination city because you wake up one day and go, oh, we're great. It's about being so compelling. You become compelling by treating your citizens well and giving them the services they need. And then they're like, wow, come. This is a great place to be. So thank you.
Thank you, Coco. Jeffrey Tartagia, and following Jeffrey is Stephen Barassa. Is Jeffrey? Got some new wheels there, huh? Nice.
Unfortunately.
Are you good with that microphone, Jeffrey?
I don't know whether you can hear me.
I think we're good.
As I informed you before, it's August. This will be the last board meeting I go to for a while based upon the decisions that I have seen you make and what you're doing today. I will explain further when it comes about related to Henry Lee's and your Andy's decision as the negotiator. It seems to me I'm real, should we say, unhappy. But at the same time, I want to thank all the relationships that I've built with RT. And I will be here supporting you for a while, but I'm not certain about, indeed whether RT's board needs to be altered and changed. And to that, I may work with Ken Cooley to suggest that not only a Los Rios student trustee representative get on there so we have some ridership. But I also want to thank right now and bring up a big thank you to Janet Librato, because she recognized a few years ago how often I would make both compliments and I would also make problems, issues that needed to have the attention. I also want to thank Jamie this last week, which you guys are going to probably hear a little later about and understand a little further, because there's many things this last year I have worked with and done that this board is probably not have a foggiest clue about. But I will say right now, I am disappointed with this board. I will elaborate further, but I will also speak right now of things that are other than regional transit. And Pat Hume, please make sure you know about the voters registration, because that's going to dramatically impact everything next year and forth. This is SB 450. You're having this week a meeting in Elk Grove. You are also, aware of Thursday, if you're aware of the, should we say, SACOG, you're also having the Civic, which you also, Steve, need to know it's for Citrus Heights. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just like you, Jeff, and you, Rick, need to pass on to, Erica at the council board? Next Monday, appropriations transit bill through there. He and I have talked before in the hallways of the legislators. There's a bill appropriation-wise that will be next Monday. Something pass on. If you need a copy of it, I will be more than happy to give it to you guys to get into his hands and happiness through here. So, okay, 20 seconds left. What I will say to you is, board, the decisions you're making tonight will set this RT back a number of years. I also would say the decisions you are making sent the wrong signal. I will also say that I have nothing personally against, and I'll leave it that way.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Stephen, after Stephen is Mike Barnbaum. Good evening, Stephen.
Greetings, board. Well, we're in a situation where we need to come up with local funds for transportation issues. That seems to be the current federal climate that's emerging. And we saw this great presentation by RT showing the stark amount of money that RT gets, 1/6 of a cent compared to other transit agencies. Los Angeles is at 1.5 cents. So, a reasonable target, for a sales tax measure would probably be to get them to 0.5 cent, perhaps. And to do that, the STA would have to do a Measure A plus that changes the mix from roads to transit, reversing it, where 66% would go to transit and the remainder would go to perhaps fix it first instead of road expansion, for example. But the RT board should advocate for a strong transit position in this future tax measure. And polling data from the previous Measure B reveals that there is strong countywide support for transit. So it's not a loser for the sale. Remember, LA, they did like 60% for their successful measure for Metro. I think it was like 60% for transit, including operations and such. Now, the polling, which was from April 14th, STA board meeting, item number 5, reveals some things from the data. 81% support light rail and bus maintenance and security. 80% support light rail and bus operations. Now, these are all, beyond the 2/3 necessary for passage of a sales tax measure. 75% extend light rail toward the airport and Elk Grove. 69% replace aging buses. 66% replace aging light rail cars. The only transit item to score poorly was actually the streetcar, downtown streetcar, 50%. But this poll does show strong countywide support. Of course, a new poll would be really important to see where the pulse is today, I imagine. But another thing I think, the STA and the board should consider promoting is a transit-only measure, maybe 2 measures, one that's a fix-it-first measure, one that's a transit-only, maybe 1/3 of a cent going to transit. I think that would fly too. Something to consider if there's hostility towards SB1 and the gas tax, this perception of, we've paid for roads already. So, you wouldn't want it to, this transit opportunity to sink because of negative road tax sentiment. So that is it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Mike, and following Mike is Robert Coplin. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the board. In the first year of operation of the Golden One Center, Regional Transit and 2 other public transit agencies, the Yolo County Transportation District and Roseville Transit, were collectively recognized in December at the Sacramento Area Council of Governments for the efforts that they put together to serve Golden One Center for a variety of events, including but not limited also to Sacramento Kings games. Roseville Transit in particular started the Game Day Express, in which they exclusively serve Kings games and will continue to do so next season. With that being said, today at 3 p.m. Pacific time, the full 2017-2018 NBA schedule was released nationwide. And we wanted to give you a little bit of glimpse of highlight of the Sacramento Kings schedule, not from necessarily an opponent standpoint or the basketball operations standpoint, but more from a business and transportation standpoint, which would be the focus of what you would look at it from, and as well as your audience and your staff here with you this evening. We wanted to let you know that of the total 43 home games at Golden One Center, only 5 will begin at 7:30 p.m. Only 5. There will be 5 Sunday home games. Sunday has always been raised as a concern because it's the day of the week where the least amount of transit service is offered with your agency, both bus and light rail combined. However, we are pleased to say that the latest Sunday start time will be Sunday, March 4th at 6 p.m. Other start times include 3 p.m. on October 29th and March 25th, 12:30 p.m. on December 10th, and a New Year's Eve start time at 4 p.m. We're very pleased that this schedule came out, and will provide you hard copies of the schedule so you could dissect it through and through at your next meeting on August 28th. But because of the short notice of 3 p.m. release and a 5:30 start time of this board meeting, we were unable to provide you hard copies today, but be aware we have a visit with the team executives tomorrow, and we'll provide you the schedule in 2 weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks as always for the Kings update there, Mike. Okay, Robert, and Robert's followed by Alex Gradow. Good evening, Robert.
I want to talk about Measure SB1 funding. I think every city here in our T board should go for the competitive grants to fix the roads, better bus service, better more RT buses, but more frequency on RT. Well, I got 2 minutes and 36 seconds left. I don't know what I can do with all that.
No, those are we're working on that, Robert. So appreciate the comments.
But I think RT should be, and get the lifetime pass back for the senior citizens, like for the elderly, like 75 years old. And the 90-minute transfer, I think that'd be a good idea. And on non-SB1, I think each city should have transit where development is going. And if you're not doing that, you're fumbling the football. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. I don't know. Alex, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all. for your service. I commend you all, and I'm proud to be here with all of you, because I don't have what it takes to be in your seats right now, making the tough decisions. So thank you again, and I want to thank the public for participating in this, because this is what it takes to make democracy work. And so I feel just worthy, and just to be able to express myself and have people hear me. So thank you again. It's very kind of you all. So I just wanted to share my experience using transit here as briefly as I can. I've only been in Sacramento for a short time, and I just would like to see, as I work, in the service industry, transit available after I get out of work, potentially. I just wanted, that's not, and I take that back. It's not really a request. I just want to share with you that seeing that the subway stops running at 11 is something very new to me working in cities. And so just for those, I'm speaking for those in the hospitality industry, it would be very useful to be able to have public transportation up at late night, and that goes for night people people out experiencing the nightlife here in Sacramento. And that's really all I have to share with you tonight. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for coming out this evening, Alex. Arthur, you are up. Sorry I didn't give you a little pre-warning there. And after Arthur, it'll be Russell Rawling. Good evening, Arthur.
Good evening. I just wanted to ask, I don't know how to mention it, but I know a few months back, well, it's been more than months now, but I was wanting, when this was brought up, that when you were first discussing on different things and all one time, they were explaining to you as a board what it would cost for new buses and et cetera and everything, but they did not have the monies at all of the funds at that time. I don't know now, but at that time that they said they didn't have no monies for the funds at all, like to get new cars and all for light rail. And my question is that true today? And if so, what can we do? What can we do as far government-wise or whatever, what we have to do that try to get I know I understand, like one of the gentlemen, I keep forgetting his name. He mentions about the budget and all and everything and explain what the board wants to do and etc. But what I was wanting to find out, what can we do to, as the public, of trying to get something, well, maybe for our RT, like to us, and let them know that we're behind you, and you want to know some of the things and all of what you want us to mention. I know that it's just mentioning it basically right now because there's no funding, hardly. You're doing what you can do, and that's about it. And I would go about it if I knew what to do. So I understand that he mentioned, I believe, if it wasn't the last meeting, it was the meeting prior to that he mentioned something about that they're going to have to order some new light rail cars pretty quick because they're running out of time from the cars. And I know those are the only cars that we've had since light rail started, and that goes back to about the middle of '87. And I was wondering if if that's true, how long do we have before
Yes.
we can have before they can't be on it anymore?
Right, yeah, it's Arthur, hot topic of discussion. So I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting or before the next meeting, and appreciate your offer to help get the word out. So,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arthur.
Thank you.
And then Russell, your timing was good. You got in under the gun here. Good evening, Russell.
Good evening, board. It's a bit of a challenge getting over here at 5:30 after getting off work at 5. Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to commend staff really for participating and putting together a great, or participating in a great SB1 discussion on Saturday that we held at Organized Sacramento as part of Sacramento Transit Riders Union. It was a good discussion. I think that there are a lot of opportunities before you. As Robert mentioned, roads, we can get them, some of that pothole damage that's out there repaired, hopefully. And also look at, RT's got some opportunities, like maybe considering bringing back transfers or some lower fares, as well as increasing some operational capacity. So there's some exciting, I think, uses for this SB1 money that we've got ahead of us. And it's time to take a look at that and invest in it. Additionally, I also want to say that I appreciate staff's work for getting the vending machine discussion put on the Mobility Advisory Council's calendar. I know that was a challenge. I think that it's a really important conversation. The new vending machines, although they'll only be on the Blue Line, will be the first point of access for customers that are riding RT. So it's important that they be the most accessible, both in barrier removal and language accessibility. Thanks.
Thanks, Russell, and thanks for all your participation in those events. Okay, that concludes business from the floor on items not on this evening's agenda, so moving on.
Moving on, consent calendar items 1 through 8, noting that you have a speaker on item 8.
Okay, so entertain a motion for 1 through 7.
I'll move items 1 through 7.
1 through 7, moved by Director Human, seconded by Director Budge. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Motion carries at 100 votes. Item number 8, resolution approving work order number 6, streetcar vehicle procurement evaluation and Buy America pre-award audit to the contract for general engineering support services with SOMAS. And Neil Nance is here, and I believe Daryl is also here to answer any questions.
Great, and we have Jeffrey. Thanks for getting Jeffrey the sound there. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Yes, two things is, one, do we know when SACOG steering committee is actually going to meet? And I understand there's a 15 to 18 inch for dealing with Memorial Auditorium, as well as I understand there is some issues related to the 3rd Street. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's part of in the construction and involvement with the city of Sacramento. And since this is engineering, I'm hoping the people here know and are clued into what in this contract of engineering is involving.
So Jeffrey, your first question was the steering committee. Did I catch that right?
That is SACOG steering committee of when they're meeting, which I believe is the next level of which this procedure of what you're doing here on this. And I suspect Steve might have a little more information about it.
Go ahead, Steve. So.
Hi, Jeffrey. We haven't yet gotten a notice for when that's going to be scheduled, and it's as needed, so the notice will go out. Kirk Trost at SACOG is the point of contact if you want to find out more information.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Okay, that's all I have. Request to speak on item 8. So moved by Director Harris, seconded by Director Hansen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Motion carries at 100 votes. Motion carries at 100 votes. Next item is number 9, the general manager's report.
All right, Henry, take it away.
Yes, good evening, Chair Maureen, members of the board, and the public. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Chairman to present quarterly employee recognitions. We have not done that for a couple months now. Sacramento Public recognizes employees that have 20 years or more of service. The two award recipients with us tonight are Maureen Wren, our grants manager, and Stephanie Owen, transportation supervisor. And the two other recipients who could not be here with us today, they are Jimmy Bingham and Stephen Robinson. Both are our proud bus operators. Okay. Maureen? Okay.
Let's take pictures. Okay, I'll take pictures. Oh, Wendy's going to take pictures. Okay.
Can we back up? I do this number line there, yes.
Yeah, okay. I also like to present another special employee recognition. In December 2016, the Federal Transit Administration's FTA's Office of Civil Rights conducted an on-site compliance review of Sacramento's Equal Employment Opportunity Program. Last month, FTA sent official notice to us that they are satisfied with Sacramento's EEOC program, and we are in full compliance with FTA requirements. I'd like to thank Kim Holman, our EEOC administrator, for all her diligent efforts. Just to come, let people say you. One more special employee announcement. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce our new Deputy GM COO, Mark Lonergan. Mark,
Hey.
step up a little bit. Currently, Mark is eligible to retire now. So technically, he's working free. He's working free for Sacramento now and save a great deal of cost for RT if he continues to work. Driven by his total devotion for RT's better future and his unwavering love for the citizens of this region, instead of retiring, Mark actually stepped up to take more responsibilities to help RT to achieve its strategic vision. So, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you, Mark, for your sacrifice and commend you for your unparalleled dedication to RT. Thank you very much. Next, I like to share some updates, brief updates
Hey,
related to...
Henry, one moment, please.
Yes.
Director Chenier.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mark for all the years of service that you've done and for what you're going to do. I think the fact that I know a year ago or so you were ready to retire, and I think the fact that you've changed your mind, that you've decided you want to be a part of what's happening here at RT. I know we have a long way to go, but is a very, very strong statement about the future of this organization and where we're going. So I just wanted to say thank you, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, well said, Jay.
Okay, thank you. A couple brief update. First, we continue our relentless effort to transform Water I-80 Light Rail Station into a new window of New Sacramento. Since last board meeting, we had installed 14 new cameras and 2 public announcement systems. Now, every inch of the station is under police surveillance 24/7. Second, I want to specifically thank SAC2 for advising us during last board meeting to provide some support for the passengers waiting outside of the Sacramento Customer Service Center in the 13th and Lines R Street. Immediately, our marketing staff installed portable tents outside of our customer service center so our customers now can get some relief or protections from rain, sun, and hot or cold weathers. You see the picture, that's left side is before and right side is now. Another update is to promote Sacramento, we are consistently conducting our listening tours and community meetings on a daily basis. Since last board meeting, we have many meetings with community organizations such as Syria Club, 350 Sacramento, SAC2, and others. I want to particularly thank former City of Sacramento Mayor Heather Fargo for giving us some great advice and willing to help promote Sacramento in the future. I also want to thank Fair Oaks Rotary Club for the wonderful hospitality and warm welcome. I had the opportunity to speak and before the club last week, and this is an excellent organization, and about 75 people attended the meeting. The club president offered the continued support on Sacramento in the future. This past Saturday, I had the pleasure to join SAC2 and several dozens of community leaders to discuss SB1 and other matters. I appreciate the invitation from SAC2 Board Chairwoman Tammy Dremer and Civic Rights Leader Russell Rollins. A couple good news, some announcements. In the next 2 weeks, Sacramento will be holding several free ride days to encourage people to try transit and become new riders. Primary results of a recent bus and light rail customer engagement survey with 1,200 random sampled riders show that 26% of riders are new Sacramento riders within the last 12 months. This is just one survey shows that we are trying to, to do more surveys to verify, to say what if that's true. If that's true, that is great. By offering this type of free ride promotion, we hope that ratio continues to increase. There are 3 free ride days or 3 free ride events. For the thousands of students who will be going back to school this month, Sacramento wants to help make the first day seamless by offering a free ride day based on the school schedules in different districts. In honoring of National Senior Citizens Day on Monday, August 21st, Sacramento will be offering free rides for seniors and persons with disabilities to show our support and appreciation. In addition, Sacramento has partnered with the California Museum for the grand opening celebration for the Unity Center exhibit on Saturday, August 26th. Museum visitors can try light rail for free with a printed Unity Center exhibit flyer. To download the flyer, visit californiamuseum.org. A lot of great news is related to Sacardi's operator attendance program. Preliminary analysis of RT's operator attendance trend demonstrates absenteeism is trending down since a new attendance aid program was implemented in April 2017. In the second quarter of 2017, sick hours used decreased 14% from the first quarter. Is that one? Mm-hmm. That's the absenteeism, the sick time. Do you have? Which one is the sick
It's the
time?
blue on the bottom.
Oh, it's the bottom. Okay. The average monthly cost of unscheduled overtime for 2017 is trending 23% lower than the previous year. As a result, we did not have missed trips in bus operations in last couple of months due to the operator attendance issue. So I want to thank ATO President Ralph Ness for his strong leadership and collaboration, and the staff's diligent and creative work to improve productivity with new business models. Lastly, I'm honored being selected for a position on the APTA Board of Directors after a very competitive selection process among a large pool of extremely qualified candidates across North America. APTA, which is American Public Transportation Association, is a leading force in North America to advance public transportation with thousands of member organizations, including SACRT. This is a tremendous opportunity for me to serve in an expanded national leadership role, which will help SACRT to be more competitive when seeking federal and state grants. I want to thank Congresswoman Matsui, Mayor Stenberg, Chair Morin, and other prominent leaders from both private and public side for their strong recommendations. This concludes my GM report, and I'd like to invite Lieutenant Lisa Hans to podium to give a regular update on our security improvement progress.
Good to see you this evening. Lisa?
Good to see you, Chair. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. I just had a few updates related to regional transit policing services. We're doing a very proactive thing to make our system as safe as possible. So last Wednesday, August 9th, we partnered with, and I would like to mention all of the regional law enforcement partners that we managed to partner up with, which included us, the Sheriff's Department, the Sacramento Police Department, the Sheriff's North POP team, Rancho Cordova's POP team, Sacramento Police Department's POP team, Federal Air Marshals, also known as FAM or Viper teams, Sheriff's Gangs teams, SAC PD's Gangs team, SAC PD detectives, probation, and then we also included transit agents in training to help them get out and be exposed to this game plan. So essentially what we did, we asked for some assistance to go out and be very proactive along the system in and around our neighborhoods, including Watt and I-80, and then Rancho Cordova, and then 16th Street and 13th Street downtown. So we put these officers and agents on trains in and around the stations, and we're very proactive. That evening, we netted 73 citations, 11 arrests, 18 parole and probation searches, 12 vehicle stops, and 4 suspicious subject stops. So we were very proactive, and I think that leads us to know that our system is very safe, because we are going to continue in the future doing proactive policing to make sure that we can have the safest system possible. I also wanted to give an update related to the PA system. I mentioned it in my Watt and I-80 presentation. So it's been up and running where the SOC has been trained, the Security Operation Center has been trained for 23 days, where they've been implementing different messages to people with behavior issues such as smoking, drinking, loitering. And in just those 23 days, we have 30 stations that have the PA capabilities, and then 23 more stations to come. Roger's being very quick with that, so it's pretty amazing. We're able to constantly add to our ability to talk to people at the different stations. And in those 23 days, they've used it. The SOC is very proactive. I kind of look at it as a proactive policing tool. Could prevent calls, make it safer for our riders. They've used it 146 times. The compliance rate's pretty great. There's just a handful of instances where they've had to dispatch police officers or TAs or guards to make sure that the people smoking or loitering leave. But for the most part, I'm going to show you a video here in a few minutes. There's 3 instances where 2 of which they're smoking and 1 drinking, they leave and get out of the area, which I think is the safest conclusion to making it safer for our rider. It's too early to tell how that's going to affect our customer service. Complaints related to smoking, but I have noticed already that they're down coming towards me. So hopefully this will be very successful. Could you go ahead and play those videos, Adam? So these 2 gentlemen are smoking, and there at the Power In station on July 19th, and you'll see that they look up because they're getting talked to, and this is a new thing. This is the drinker, I'm sorry. This is the guy drinking at Royal Oaks. You can see his bottle beside him, which is obviously illegal to have alcohol in public. I think it's the lesser of the evils, but not ideal that he throw it away. This is at Power In, and these two guys are smoking, and so they finally realize that they're being talked to through the PA system as well. The ultimate goal is either they stop smoking or leave the station, so they leave the station. And this last one here is a man also smoking. You can see through the video. This is at 9th and K Street.
That is.
These are good examples just to show you that people are listening to us and are responding, and I think it's awesome that it's going to help reduce our calls for service. So I think it's a pretty neat example. You shoot these few short videos. I wanted to tell you a couple more things. We're in preliminary talks with Rancho Cordova's chief to pay half and half for a police officer from Rancho Cordova to join us. So that's exciting moving forward. And they're also going to, their chief is going to fund 4 of the police observation devices at the 4 Rancho stations. And I'm going to be switching August 28th to Paladin full-time out at Wattenai 80. Things are lightening down there, so lightening up down there, so that should be good. And then Roger Thorne asked that this is along the security information to share with you, that 20 light rail vehicles have live cameras now, which is huge in his project. And the project should be complete in 90 to 120 days. So that's really exciting for us at the SOC to be able to watch that live train video. That's all I have.
Thanks for a great report there, Lieutenant. And Roger, thanks for all your work and the work of your folks there. So lots of great news there. All right, so that concludes everything, Henry, on our general manager report. Okay, I have no request to speak on this, so next item, please.
Item number 10, resolution approving the First Amendment to the employment agreement with Henry Lee as SAC-RT's general manager CEO. Introduced by Andy Morin.
All right, great. Thank you, Cindy. So, so as a matter of this item, there is a compliance issue which requires an oral report out based on where we came to as far as this contract proposal that'll be voted on this evening, and even absent that compliance requirement. We'd be doing this anyway, just to be fully transparent in this process. So I've got a few notes here that I'm going to work through just to make sure everybody understands a little bit of the detail inside the staff report contract that you've seen there. And I'll just start off by, just kind of a little history here. So so Mike Wiley hired Henry, probably 2.5 years ago, something like that. And upon Mike's retirement, this board promoted Henry to a general manager of the Sacramento Regional Transit Agency, and that was effective July 1st last year. It was my goal in my initial discussions and meetings with Henry. 2 things were very important to me, which I felt would be very important to this board as we began discussions. One was to reward Henry for his exceptional work this past year. We did kind of bring Henry out of the minor leagues here. So he had a bit of a minor league contract, but it was incentive laden. That was the preference of this board. We didn't have a proven commodity, but we certainly had high expectations. So for that reason, the contract was built with his base salary plus an up to 20% incentive bonus for fiscal year 2016-2017. It was the recommendation, after discussions and stuff, we believe most of the board is supportive of that 20% bonus. So that comes out to $43,200, which again, added to his base salary, is still well below Henry's peers in the transit industry. So that's the reward for, I think, what we all recognize is, again, an exceptional amount of work. Every time we listen to the general manager's report, I'm always amazed at where Henry's been and what he's done. But as well, Henry's always first to recognize all the exceptional work of his staff, which has also been exemplary. Item number 2 on my notes here. And again, a lot of this is repetitive from the staff reports that you may have read. So the proposal is, what will be voted on this evening, is to adjust his salary in 2 steps. So the first adjustment will be retroactive to January 1st of this year, so just a month and a half ago.
July 1st.
Oh, July 1st. Yes, I'm sorry. Thanks for that critical correction there. Henry was getting excited over there. So that first increase goes from his original base of $216,000 to $248,500, and then the second adjustment, which is effective January 1st of 2018, raises that salary to $281,000. And again, I need to emphasize one more time, and this is visible in a chart in the staff report, that this remains underneath the salaries that Henry's peers equivalent in other comparable transit agencies. So there was an effort on my part, and I believe the board, to get Henry closer to industry averages, to again reflect the fact that he's not a minor league anymore. He really is doing everything I could imagine any general manager in any transit agency in this country doing. So with that increase, there's also this added clause in here where we wanted to, at least for the time being, take a little bit of the subjectivity out of Henry's compensation moving forward, and this is actually proposed by Henry, was to just tie his raise for next year to what an employee group, the MCEG, or that's the Management and Confidential Employee Group, the raise that they would see as well. This has yet to be proposed by Henry, and any proposal would is approved by this board. So there's a strong level of control by this board. Henry can't control, by proxy, what sort of a raise he's going to get. So we feel like for the time being, this is a good arrangement going forward. Again, Henry was very receptive to this, and looking into the raise next year, effective July 1st, 2018. Hopefully I got the month and the year right there. So then lastly on all of this is pension. So because of recently enacted pension law in the state of California, the time-based defined benefit pensions are much less costly for agencies. And Henry, having just started here about 2 years ago, his ability to capture a pension, in fact, I think the example is, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong based on what I've seen, but if Henry were to serve here at his updated salary for the next 10 years and retired at that point, his pension would be about $20,000 a year. So that's good for the transit agency as far as costs going forward, but to attract and retain at-will employees like Henry is, and to keep them around, more needs to be done. And that's when we see the defined contribution plan come into place or come into play. So Sacramento RT will contribute $29,000 a year to the district's 401A defined benefit plan on Henry's behalf. And the way to visualize this, and again, this is really prepaying our pension costs. So when we get to ultimately the end of a long career that Henry has here at Sacramento RT, is that his pension plan is prepaid and won't cost this agency massive amounts of money going forward when he is not here. So those are the points that I wanted to share, some of the rationalization behind that. As a board, we all have slightly different opinions on a lot of these little nuances, but it's the contract proposal that's before us this evening. So with that, unless anybody has any other questions or comments maybe of me, before I get to business from the floor, I'll open up the floor for commentary. Okay, so with that, we do have a number of requests to speak on this item. Not a surprise based on media interest and things of that nature. So we'll start it off with Jeffrey. Can we get Jeffrey Tartagia, the microphone here? And after Jeffrey is Stephen Barassa, and after Stephen is Mike Barnum. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Well, Andy, my fangs are out. And that's why I do not respect the board right now, because I think you've set now for rank and file with this increase, because 60% of your riders earn less than federal minimum poverty standards. I've spent the last 5 years working for Simply a Cola. Right now, even his pension of 20+ thousand is more than most of those people earn in a year, and that's your ridership. It also means that why in the world this sounds like a Mike Wiley, where the golden parachute that was started at the beginning. So I'm certainly hoping that somewhere the next year of performance, of probation, of all the things that somehow was alluded into, and somehow the public wasn't aware that the first year was a probation period. And clearly in the budget, are these factors included and just not explained that you were going to have these increases year one in the budget through there? Just you leave me unhappy. And I will say to you is this, for the future of regarding new funding, you're going to have the same attitude. Well, if you can give him 20 and you know you got another 20% sitting there increase because he's 15% below the market, it's not, Henry, in any way respect to you. It's this board. Did they think of the ramifications? Yes, he needed to be rewarded. He needed to be thanked. But more than 20%, who else gets besides a general manager more than a 20% raise? That is what makes this board, I'm sorry to say, not considering what this future needs to be. And that's part of where I say this is why, hey, I think this board needs to be shifted to understand that, because clearly more than $20,000 being added, which you're doing way more than that, seems to be where, if he was doing the job, I would like to see at least 5+ performance criteria in there. Henry, you know, I've turned around and said, hey, let's work with the Toastmaster. Let's get some great skills in meetings so that you can hold a meeting under less than an hour. Those are things that's helpful.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Stephen, and followed by Stephen, Mike Barnbaum, and after Mike Barnbaum is David Modacetti. Good evening, Stephen.
Greetings. Well, as a member of Sacramento Transit Advocates and Writers, I got to meet with Henry Lee early in his tenure. And I must say, from that moment, I've been thoroughly impressed with this man and just so pleased that he is the man that's leading this agency. Just his integrity, his openness, he's impeccable with his leadership, his vision, helped formed the strategic vision plan, which is very optimistic for the region. I think it's very bold and wise, the steps that he's taken. He's been running the company, I guess, out of the red and building up a reserve, much needed reserve. There's an endless list of things I'm very pleased with, Mr. Lee. I think, the region, Sacramento region, and this agency is incredibly blessed to have him at the helm. Now, this board is considering now making his salary and benefits somewhere near the median of other peer transit agencies. And one thing is clear, he's worth every dollar, and he's a very wise asset for this agency. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Mike is David, and then after David is Helen O'Connell. Evening, Mike.
Good evening, Chairman Moran and members of the board, staff and audience and viewers at home. Mike Barnbaum with Ride Downtown 916. Since Henry came on the job, it has been an agency full of energy and excitement with the changes occurring. We are in full agreement with the letter we hope is before you, written by partners that we have worked with to help regional transit and the region as a whole to clean up public transit. For the viewers at home, the letter was written by Sacramento Kings minority owner Mark Friedman, along with Dane Domich, David Taylor, Ali Yousefi, Wendy Hoyt, Michael Heller, Tina Thomas, and Sacramento Republic Football Club President Warren Smith, an organization who we can draw a parallel to your comments, Mr. Chairman, is also wanting to come out of the minor leagues and go into the major leagues. And we are all anticipating a big announcement of that and one other city to do just that this December. We're really motivated by the commissioner's comments just in the last couple of weeks of what that organization did just to start some groundwork by the rail yards. And good for the commissioner to go on national television to say what he did about Sacramento at the national level. It was just awesome and riveting to hear. Mr. Lee has, as evidenced by photographs on social media, very much engaged with the community. Most recently, posts were made in Orangevale, where he gave a presentation to folks out in the Orangevale community. He has participated in station activation events, continued the transit talk. As many of us know, we are all eager, as is Henry, to improve service. Delta Shores, Amazon, Sacramento International Airport, and the list goes on. We feel that this compensation package is fair, and Mr. Lee has engaged his staff with us, most notably and recently, Accessible Services Administrator Janice Labrado and Owner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Lonergan. I was honored to take the role to draft a working paper for a major service change at Watt and I-80, and the stakeholders have that. There's a lot of work to do, as there is with service, and you'll see on the next item, the route optimization study. But this is a package that's fair, and we'd be glad to make the motion to approve item 10.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, David, and after David is Helen, and then Russell Rawling. Good evening, David.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chair and directors. My name is Dave Modisette, and I'm the new CEO of Breathe California Sacramento region, also a daily RT rider. And I'm here on behalf of Mike Matos, who's the president of the Breathe Board of Directors. Mike would be here himself today, except he had a scheduled medical procedure that he's recovering from as we speak. As most of you know, I think Breathe is an organization that supports clean air and healthy lungs We provide direct services to children and adults that suffer from asthma, COPD, and other lung ailments. We sponsor programs to reduce the use of tobacco and exposure to secondhand smoke. And we advocate for programs and policies in our region that reduce air pollution. We believe that public transit is a key element in the formula for clean air, and both RT and Henry have championed clean air in Sacramento. Further, because of Henry's efforts, RT is again fiscally responsible and has added to its reserve fund for the first time in many years. He has also brought the focus of the agency to the rider experience, focusing on clean and safe stations, stops, and vehicles, as well as on-time service performance. For these reasons, we strongly support a long-term contract that both rewards Henry for his performance and keeps him in his CEO post. We would additionally like to thank Henry for his support of our clean air mission and goals in the Sacramento region. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, David. Helen. And after Helen is Russell and then David Taylor. Good evening, Helen.
Good evening, Board. This is Helen O'Connell. I'd like to echo the comments already made, supporting Henry Lee in his endeavors and all of this work he already has done. But I would also like to see some of the routes that were cut in 2009 be reinstated, and the lifetime pass for the seniors over 75 be reinstated. If you have money to raise his salary and give him a bonus and all this other well-deserved stuff, maybe you could reinstate some of the services that were cut in 2009 and bring it up to standards for today so that everybody could ride the bus and the lines wouldn't be cut back so far that you don't have Sunday service in some areas and you don't have weekend service in others. And we have a desert of services in several different areas that maybe bus shuttles could be used to get people to the main lines. These are some of the concerns that I've heard, and I support reinstating a lot of the lines that were cut in 2009.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks for giving Henry some marching orders for his next year of work. Okay. Russell.
Good evening, Board. Russell Rawlings. Yes, I'm going to mirror everything that's been said previously. RT is a different organization now than it was going in, at least in terms of responsiveness. There's a lot of work ahead, a lot of really hard work ahead, and some really important financial decisions to be made in the future, I think, as we look at some of the opportunities. Some of which are related to fares, others service. The big one being the route optimization study that's going to be before us. And I think Henry is the correct leader for this process. I'm eager to work with him as we continue forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. And I know Henry's eager to continue working with you as well. And David Taylor? Good evening, David.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Moran and directors. I'm here representing a group of business people who began working with the board about 3 years ago in July of 2014 because we were concerned about the state of RT at that time and felt like there needed to be a change in direction and change in culture. We worked closely with the board up through until Henry was hired last year, and I was able to personally sit on the committee that helped select him as the preferred candidate to recommend to you for hiring. We're here, and it was mentioned earlier. We wrote a letter that should have arrived to you earlier today. That is specifically from 8 of us: Mark Friedman, Dane Domich, myself, Ali Yousefi, Wendy Hoyt, Michael Heller, Warren Smith, and Tina Thomas. Those are just the 8 who were available to review this and sign it today. We were on a fairly short schedule. There are several others who are interested, but we're out of town. We feel like keeping talent. Attracting and keeping talent to manage a group like RT is difficult, and you guys have the challenge. You had the challenge of how do you replace Mike Wiley, who'd been here for 28 years? How do you bring new blood into the group who can help change the culture and motivate that person to stay here for a long time, to make that culture change and to make the improvements? We feel like Henry has proven in the last year that he was the right selection. He was willing to take a risk back then that his compensation package, he was going to have to prove his value. We believe that he has more than done that in the past year. We feel like he deserves the proposed increases. We feel like if we don't encourage you to approve the package, that we could very well end up losing Henry sooner than we would want to lose him. And I don't think any of us would like to see that. So we encourage you to approve the package. We encourage you to continue to incentivize him to turn the ship around and to continue the excellence that he's set out for the staff here. And we're very encouraged. So thank you very much, and good luck.
Great. Thanks, Dave, and thanks for all your personal interest in the transit in the region over the past number of years. It's been instrumental. So. Okay, so that exhausts our request to speak on this item. So comments, motions, open up the floor. Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make some comments. First of all, this is a lot of money. It is a very high salary, and so anytime you get talking about those numbers, it's somewhat unrelatable to a lot of people, so I appreciate Mr. Tardigray's comments. However, I would not do Henry's job for the salary he's making right now, because what he inherited and what he's done is pretty remarkable, and I think has been said by many people, he's earned every penny of it. But I want to go back to some of the things that the chair outlined, and I think some of the folks that spoke on this mentioned. First of all, we brought Henry in at a considerable bargain. He had not led an agency before, and we recognized that we were taking some risk by putting our chips with him. He recognized that he would take some risk at accepting a lower compensation in order to prove himself, as was mentioned. But I want to point out that initial salary plus the bonus that we would be voting on tonight would still be a bargain from what peers in the industry are making. And so the bonus is for the job he's done, and the raise would be to bring him up to parity with the other his industry peers leading other agencies. Now, we did take into account cost of living and some of the other things to back that in and recognize that Sacramento may be a little more affordable than some of these other metropolitan areas. But imagine the embarrassment that Henry would feel going into a room of all these peers, and they're looking at him like, you've done all these great things with this agency, you've turned it around, gotten it off the rocks, you're getting people who used to be rightful critics of the organization, like Mr. Rawlings, to now are engaged and want to participate in charting the new course, and yet you don't make as much as my number 3 guy. Why? Right? Well, that's embarrassing for somebody who should be at an even pair with these same folks to have to explain away why they're giving themselves away on the cheap. So, look, I appreciate being fiscally responsible, but as was mentioned, and here's the funny thing, is I think Henry is so committed to the job that he's doing right now that if we didn't bring him up to parity, he probably would still stick it out and do it, but I don't want to take that risk, and I want to reward him for doing such an amazing job. As was said, that he has, for the first time in a long time, taken this agency not only out of a downward trajectory financially, but put money into reserves. And to put that in perspective, the amount of money he has saved this organization this year alone would probably cover his salary for his tenure with this organization. Really? Millions. So you divide what he would be making into millions. Maybe he'll prove me wrong and stay here for 20 years, and then in that case, But, so I would be happy to make the motion to approve these items.
Okay, motion moved by Director Hume, seconded by Director Chenier. Any other comments? Director Budge?
I don't want to negate absolutely anything that Henry has accomplished. There's no question that he's made huge differences for all of us, and that needs to be rewarded, and I understand everything that the chair and that Pat and everybody that has spoke have said. I had a problem with one of the aspects of the contract, and I don't want to vote against Henry, so I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Linda. Any other comments, questions before I call for the vote? Okay, let's do a roll call vote on this.
Director Budge?
Abstain.
Director Hansen?
Aye.
Director Harris?
Aye.
Director Hume?
Aye.
Director Jennings?
Aye.
Director Kennedy?
Aye.
Director Miller?
Aye.
Director Natoli?
Aye.
Director Chenier?
Aye.
Director Cerna is marked as being absent, and Chair Morin.
Aye.
With that, we have a quorum at 90 votes.
All right.
Motion passes.
Great. Director Chenier, comment?
Great, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank the chair for, this was a lot of work, getting us to a place that we all could reach consensus on, and so want to recognize that and appreciate the work that you've done.
I appreciate that. The media was coming after me, but I dodged most of them, except
He's
for
right there.
Except for Tony. Tony got me.
We'll stand between you and Tony. We'll get there. Thank you for all the work. And these are, as Director Hume said, these are difficult decisions, and it is a lot of money. But I think Sacramento always needs to stand, and as Mr. Taylor said, we need to attract the very best talent, and we need to retain the very best talent. That's what's good for all of us. And so, Henry, we appreciate the work you've done.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, so next item, please.
Item number 11, information, route optimization study update, introduced by Laura Ham.
Good evening, Laura.
Good evening, Chair Morin and directors. I'm pleased to provide you with an update on the SAC-RT route optimization study this evening, a comprehensive and objective examination of SAC-RT's route design. We'd like to get your feedback as we start talking to the community about the project. An important goal of this phase is to build excitement and establish expectations about what this effort will include and not include, as well as how long we can reasonably expect the work to take to complete. Our major project goals include building strong relationships with the community, our customers, stakeholders, and particularly including disadvantaged populations, understanding changes in post-recession travel patterns, identifying opportunities and challenges offered by new mobility options such as ride-sharing like Uber and Lyft and autonomous vehicles, increasing ridership in our key markets, and improving service reliability and quality, making SAC-RT a point of civic pride and a true economic engine for the region. We are also updating our key documents, such as our short-range transit plan, our transit master plan, and supporting Title VI equity analysis, as well as our financial forecast model. We've built in some optional items as budget allows, and I'll invite James Boyle up in a moment, our Director of Planning, to provide more detail on the scope. We've included discussion in the staff report regarding project budget. Although we have a preliminary budget estimate, we will continue to refine the project budget as proposals are submitted and we receive feedback from potential bidders, and the RFP is out on the street right now. We will provide updates to the board as those discussions progress and come back to you in the fall to update you regarding any potential budget or scope changes. So James will provide you with more information regarding the project scope, as described in our recently released request for proposals, as well as an overview of a recent customer survey. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Good evening, James.
Good evening. glad to finally be able up here and get to speak to you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We've been waiting for this.
I know. Everyone's been waiting for this, including me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak. Members of the board, Henry, James Boyle, Director of Planning. Tonight, this is going to be the first of many, many, many updates to you on our route optimization study. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the scope, the task, talk a little bit about that. And then, as Laura said, I'll also talk a little bit about the customer satisfaction survey that was performed back in May. So with that, we'll get started. And quickly, I just want to run through the contract schedule, give you an update on where we are. We released our RFP on July 24th. There was a pre-proposal meeting held here in the auditorium on August the 8th, and attendance was actually pretty good. We had 5 firms call in via telephone and quite a few folks here represented in person. We've scheduled oral presentations for bidders to come in and present to us their plan. Our goal is to award the contract in October of 2017, and then we would like to have notice to proceed by November 1st of 2017. So that would be after negotiations and everything is set and ready to go. So in the end, our goal is to have phase 1 and phase 2 completed by September of 2018. It's a pretty ambitious schedule, and you'll see once we start getting to the scope of the task, like all the work that we're going to be doing. So moving on, I want to talk to you a little bit about our phases and our tasks that we put out on our scope. I'm not going to go into all the detail because we'd be here all night, but just want to give you a high-level view of what we're doing and the direction that we're going to go. So what we've done is we've divided this into 3 phases. So this will be a 3-phase project. Phase 1 would be what we're calling our comprehensive system review. And this, under this phase would be several tasks. Phase 2, we're calling the actual route optimization study, and I'll go into more detail about that. And then phase 3 is where we have some of the optional tasks that Laura had mentioned earlier. So taking a look at phase 1, this would be what we would start immediately once we get our notice to proceed. Task O basically is your standard project management plan. This is where we would set up the way we do our invoicing, lay out our schedule, who are the main contacts, what are the proper forms of communication with staff and the contractors. Task 1, public involvement and community engagement. This is something that is going to be really important for our project to be successful. And we have put a lot of thought and work into thinking about our public involvement campaign, our public and community engagement. A project of this scope will not be successful if we do not have the proper public involvement campaign set up and executed. So with the public involvement, we're looking at a series of just community meetings. Like, staff will be going out and leading these meetings. I heard some concerns at my very first board meeting, why are we hiring contractors to do all this? But I just want to let you know that staff will be taking the lead on those meetings and doing presentations to you and to others as well. And also, in terms of the public involvement, there will be internal workshops. So this, is not just us reaching outside of our agency. It's also reaching inside of our agency. We want to hear from the board. We want to hear from our bus operators. We want to hear from our maintenance folks. And our transit agents. These are folks who, they're out every day in the field working with our customers. And so not only are we, looking outside, but we're looking inside to develop a plan that everyone will buy into. And by the end of the day, we have success. That's our ultimate goal. So task 2, this is where we really start getting into the details. We've labeled this system review and assessment of existing conditions. As Laura noted earlier, there's been a lot of changes in Sacramento over the past 30 years or more. Demographics have changed. Where people live have changed. Employment centers, activity centers. There's a lot of things that have happened. So our goal is to take a comprehensive look at the entire area, look at the land use patterns, traffic, population, and overlay that on our system and just look at how things have changed. And when we get to that point, I think we're going to have some really good graphics that will really help you understand and see what's kind of happened over the past 30 years. We will also be working closely with our partners at SACOG. They have a lot of data. They are a wealth of data collectors. And we've already been in communications with them. They've helped with our scope and will be a part of that process. And we intend to work very closely with them and use a lot of their data to help us in our optimization effort. So that would be the end of phase one. Once we get all of our data together and got an initial assessment together, that would end phase one. And then we would move into phase two. So this is where it really starts getting fun. This is where we take all of our data, we have all of our information. This is where we really start going out to the public, having workshops, starting to get feedback, showing maps and graphics and things, working with the board and our executive team, and getting feedback from you as well. So the task one would be the route optimization study. Again, that's where a lot of the work is going to actually take place. Task two will be the short-range transit plan update. This will actually be the implementation tool of our route optimization. So once we have approval from the board on what our new system would look like, it would be implemented using the short-range transit plan update. And this is a document that is required by Caltrans, that every transit agency in the state must do. So after we have implemented our new system, there are other tasks that we could ask the contractors to help us with, and we put that in phase three. And those are updating things like our paratransit plan and also updating our fleet management plans. So I know you've heard a lot about route optimization studies and initiatives, and just wanted to highlight two agencies that actually went through this process and were very successful at what they did. Jacksonville JTA, that's where Henry came to us from. They went through this process. It was about an 18-month process for them. It cost about $2.1 million in capital and operating cost. But they were able to increase the number of routes operating 30-minute headways or better. They installed or created 10 new routes with 15-minute frequencies. They also increased later service coverage. And to note, they were also recognized by APTA in 2016 as an Outstanding Public Transportation System Award solely based on the work that they did with their optimization study and the campaign, the public campaign and outreach that they did through their process.
James, quick question. So the $2.1 million in capital and operating costs, what's that mean? Is
a lot of that, most of that is for actual implementation where they changed out.
So it's just kind of a one-time thing, and I assume these examples are just an agency using its existing resources to realign, right? They're not.
Yeah, they didn't really
get a giant budget.
Right.
Okay. All right.
The next one I want to show you is basically a zero.
Okay.
Difference.
Mr. Chair, just
yes.
while you're on that point.
Director Tully?
So you're going to use the next example is how you're going to do it with $0, is that?
That's the goal. But
more seriously, what is the budget projection here? You're going to invite 5 different firms to come in and give their take about, helping with the process, assisting staff and the community in this effort. But whatever you set aside, realistically, it's not going to be zero. So you're giving your time and others as well. So
let me just quickly answer that question.
Sure.
We'll assume about 350,000 for the consultant to help us, and about $1 to $1.2 million the capital cost, because when you change those routes, you need to change the signs, whatever, all those type of stuff.
So phase one, Henry, is the $350,000, and then the phase two would be some of that, but closer to the $1.2 million. That's what
the capital cost.
The capital cost, the phase two, which is actually your study and implementing the task, right?
Yeah.
Put it in place.
Majority of the cost will be the capital cost, because
right.
you have to change in routes, change in signs, change bus stops, all those type of stuff.
That's correct.
So you're budgeting about a 1.5 million for phase 1 and 2 and implementation?
That is our plan.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh,
All right.
rolling along.
Okay, the next one, Houston, is a good example of a very large system that they were one of the first ones in the country to actually go through this process. It took them about 2 years, but they completely changed their system from a hub and spoke to basically an all-grid system. And they basically operate the same system Monday through Sunday.
Next slide there, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There
Oops.
we go.
There you go. There's Houston. There you go. So again, they saw increases in ridership, they increased their service, but they were able to do it in a way where it really cost them nothing. I mean, just shifting stuff around, and that's the goal that we have for us too. Okay, so that's a quick update on the route optimization study. And again, like I said earlier, you'll be seeing a lot of staff, probably mostly me, giving you updates on the RRS, but I just want you to know and be assured that we're working hard on this, and I have a great team in the planning department to help me with this as well. So we're looking forward to it. So now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the customer satisfaction survey that was done back in May. This, the background of this basically was we went out and did an initial survey just to receive some data from our current riders. The customer survey results were determined satisfaction levels of current service as well as to provide the future of our system. And so doing a survey like this will actually help feed into our ROS and start to think about what is it our customers want, what do they want to see. And so those are things that come out of surveys like this that will help us in our optimization study. The methodology, there was a survey of 18 questions. The survey was conducted in the month of May. There were 8 surveyors who went out and did face-to-face surveys. So this wasn't an online, this was a face-to-face. And they went to 17 different stations and transit centers throughout Sacramento. And we got over 1,200 customer responses for this particular survey. So here's just some of the highlights from the survey. Basically, you can see that some of the basic questions about how long have you been riding the system. You got 6 months to a year, less than 6 months. And then you see majority of our riders have been riding for basically 2 years or more. But like Henry stated earlier, we did see that there's 26% possibly folks who have been riding less than a year. So that might lead you to think there's some newer riders on the system as well. How often do you ride? No surprise here. You see this a lot in transit agencies, but daily ridership is pretty high at 66%. So we know we're getting repeat folks riding our system every day. The gender question, this is very similar, again, to what you see across the country in terms of almost an even split between male and female. And then there's your ages breakup there as well. So the interesting parts of this is, what did we hear? What did we learn from doing this survey? So we asked, what system or service improvements have you noticed in the past 12 months? And I don't think it's much of a surprise with all the effort that we have been putting into improving our security and cleaning our stations. But a majority of the riders said they felt safer riding the system in the past 12 months. They have noticed an increase in security personnel and measures taken to increase a sense of security in our parking lots as well. So that's very much a kudos to our security folks. They have also noticed an increased fare inspection. Folks, our transit agents getting on the train, asking for tickets. And I can even speak from personal experience. I ride the train every day to work, and I tell you, I see them every morning going through the train asking for tickets. So I know they're out there doing their job, and that's great. Riders feel that the system is cleaner. They feel that the stations have been improved in the past 12 months in terms of cleanliness. They've also noticed an increase on-time performance as far as the buses and the trains. So that's another positive. And also, they said that the operators appear to be more helpful and courteous, which is always a good thing for a transit agency. So here is a nice little chart that was put together. And it's kind of hard to see, I guess, maybe, but we asked several questions and got some really good feedback. Basically, these were questions related to overall service rating. So you can see we've asked things about access to routes and schedules and fare information. A very high majority, 78%, said they were actually satisfied with the way that we put out our information in terms of our routes and schedules. This is a very good one here, too. Helpfulness of operators and staff. 70% said they were satisfied with that. So you can see, I mean, we're doing pretty good with the questions we asked here. On-time performance, 61% said they're satisfied. The last two, this is something that you're very much aware of, and you know that we're working on it. It's sort of like a day-to-day fight to keep the stations clean. You saw that guy just throw his bottle. I mean, I see that all the time, and a lot of times it's not even our customers that are doing that. There are other things going on where this happens. But this is something that, we know that we'll continue to keep on top of and make those improvements as we need to. So one of the other questions we asked was, just trying to get some feedback on service improvement priorities. Like, what are customers thinking? So some of the things we heard was they would like for us to provide real-time train and bus arrival information for light rail trains and buses. And we do have LED signs out at the stations that will tell you that, the trains will arrive every 15 minutes, but this is more getting at the train will be here in like 2 minutes. It's like a countdown type thing. They also wanted to see more frequent weekend bus service. They want us to add more evening and late night bus service. We need to work on improving the reliability of bus service and provide more frequent weekday bus service. And also there were some folks who talked about expanding our actual coverage area. So a lot of these things here probably don't come as a surprise to you. I mean, you hear a lot about we need more service, we need better service. And this route optimization study is going to allow us to reach out to these people, to get their feedback, to have workshops, to do everything we talked about earlier, to answer some of these questions. And these will be decisions, that we will bring forward when the time is right to, engage the board and get your feedback. But, there's a lot of good things that have been happening we got our mobile fare app out, we have our Connect card out, so there's a lot of good things going on. And I feel like I've come at a really great time, to be a part of this. And like I said, I have great staff, and we're just really looking forward to getting the route optimization study going, getting a contractor on board, and I will be here updating you every month. So you'll see me every month. I hope you don't mind. But anyways, that's it for my part, and I can try to answer questions if you have any, and if not, you can always reach out to me.
Well, thanks, James, and appreciate your emphasis on reaching out to the ridership. There's nothing like a government agency telling people we got great changes coming you're going to love. So it'll be important that they're part of that process.
Sure.
Questions for James? I do have one request to speak on this item. Sure. Okay. So Mike Barnbaum.
Oh.
Thank you, Chair Moran and members of the board, staff, audience, and viewers at home. Mike Barnbaum of Ride Downtown 916. This is an exciting item and an exciting time and an exciting project. We want to stress about the communication and engagement aspect about this study. And particularly one point that James hit was SACOG. And it brought us back to a moment thinking about all the city council meetings attended to fight for our team and build the Golden One Center. When then Mayor Kevin Johnson mentioned, we don't win as a city, we win as a region. And to us, SACOG is the region, plus SJCOG. 7 counties, 29 cities, if you combine the two. And we would say, don't just engage with SACOG behind the scenes with people during office hours via telephone and via email, but get out there and be more involved with SACOG. And here's some examples. Make frequent presentations to their transit coordinating committee, which is mostly the transit managers and transit executives across the region. Engage with their transportation committee, which is a committee of their board members on all matters pertaining to transportation. Engage in their annual unmet transit needs process, which is required by California state law under the Transportation Development Act. There are two key resources that we engage with quite often from a business standpoint for Golden One Center and DOCO have been Barbara von Bechtold and Azadeh Doherty. Azadeh, by the way, worked at the Sacramento Regional Transit District as well as the city of Sacramento. Barbara has been a long-time talented planner at the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and we couldn't thank her enough for her service and her continued service. They very much are engaged, the two of them, on the process of transportation and transit, and engage with us a lot on the business side and with the two JPAs in the region, the CCJPA, and later you'll hear about the SJJPA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, final questions, comments from board members? Director Hanson?
Yeah, thank you, James, for the presentation. This is probably the most important thing we've done in several years when it comes to adding service and restoring it or just realigning it. So as you go through it, a couple things just to think about. I do think that Mike's comment about collaborating with SACOG would be very helpful, but also the cities and the county, because of the land use decisions that are implicated in the routes. And as we work to approve projects, making sure that we're supporting transit, and through our planning processes at our jurisdictions, that we've been thoughtful about what's happening. There are a lot of different planning processes going on right now, like the Central City Specific Plan in the city of Sacramento, but we're about to also have a major general plan update coming. And so those things, as we move forward through this, they will reinforce each other. So a good route system will hopefully reinforce the ability to do infill, support transit for people who need access to transit and those other things. I also do think the continued community outreach, working through some of those community partners like we heard about, Henry reaching out to Organize Sacramento. I think those kind of things will really make a big difference at getting buy-in here, but also leading with data. We've talked a lot about trying to align the routes with population and job centers, because these routes are essentially the routes that we created 20 years ago without much change, while the community has evolved around them. So I just think there's going to be a lot of focus here on how we make these meaningful and how we continue to recover from the recession, because our bus system, we've heard over and over again from the community, is desperately in need of attention. And I think the board is more than ready to embrace this opportunity to work with the community and work with other partners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? All right. Thanks, James.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, next item, please.
Item number 12, San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting summary in your package. If Director Hume has any more comments.
Well, I'm sure everybody read the minutes, but I just want to say it was an important meeting, given that we did formally make the move to shift over to the Sacramento subdivision, which will change where passenger rail comes into Sacramento. It will mean a station for Elk Grove, a station at City College, a station in Midtown, a station in Natomas, and hopefully a station up for the airport, and then eventually all the way up to Yuba City, Marysville.
Wow.
So it's exciting time for passenger rail.
All right. Great, thanks. And I do have a request to speak on this item. Mike?
Yes, so our concluding item, the San Joaquin JPA. Thank you, Pat, for the speech about the JPA meeting. It was a very exciting meeting. We just wanted to add There were a lot of speakers supporting the schedule changes for the Morning Express, as it's being called, which will allow a train to depart from downtown Fresno at 4:25 in the morning and arrive in downtown Sacramento before 8 o'clock in the morning. The Central Valley is known to have very poor air service, and this is going to be a huge answer to that, serving the Valley communities, in which the only Valley community to have great air service anywhere between Bakersfield and Redding, we're here. It's Sacramento, with routes that were just added in early August by Southwest to Long Beach and to Spokane on a nonstop basis. The rest of the Central Valley doesn't have Southwest Airlines. We're it. The other caveat or takeaway from the meeting I wanted to add was the presentation by the great North State business community area up in Shasta County, providing the opportunity perhaps of a throughway bus service with options where you don't necessarily need a train ticket, which is like the service currently provided once a day between Sacramento and via Highway 50 to South Lake Tahoe. And this service would help out the San Joaquin JPA, particularly when they're looking through their throughway bus network connecting California, ways that they could help to contain costs and vehicle miles traveled. If the service by the Shasta group is going to come to fruition in July of 2019, they not only help to have a stop around the Capitol Mall area and the Sacramento Valley Station, as well as the Sacramento International Airport, but it would serve the I-5 communities up to and including Redding. If that is successful, the San Joaquin JPA said one idea or their hope is to cut back on their Redding service, which mainly serves Highways 99 and Highway 70, to only go up as far north as Chico. So we'll wait and see on that. The next meeting is September 22nd, probably at 12:30 in the afternoon in the Council of Governments chamber in Stockton.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thanks as always, Mike. All right, that concludes that item.
Item number 13, Sacramento Placerville Joint Powers Authority meeting summary. Director Budge has provided a written summary in your package if you have anything else to add.
I don't.
Okay.
Do you?
All right.
We're good.
Moving on, announcement of closed session items. Item A1 has been pulled from the closed session agenda. Item A2 is Donna Bond versus Sacramento Regional Transit.
Any, we anticipating need to report any final action?
No report out.
Okay, very good. So meeting adjourned to closed session.